So, welcome to On the Job podcast. We have a very special guest today, someone that's been a really big supporter of labor and a supporter of Local 103, and certainly we support her. And that's the Governor of the Commonwealth, Maura Healey. Welcome.
Hey, Lou, it's great to be with you.
Yeah.
And I love this studio.
Isn't this great?
It's fantastic. On
Yeah,
the job.
On the job.
Awesome.
Our members are in the podcast space, and that's where our social media has been pretty robust, but it's been lacking too. So we want to change with the times, and we want to go where our members are at, and our members are in the podcast space. So now we're in the podcast space. So thanks for agreeing to be a guest here.
I love it.
Awesome.
You're looking good in it too.
Yeah, thank you. That's good to see you. It's good to be with you. You guys have been busy as hell in your administration, really getting to work for the people of the Commonwealth. We all appreciate that, and we'll kind of get into some of that, what you're doing and what's going on. But wanted to back up a little bit and talk about where you came from. You know, your upbringing. You know, we had a big family, and how that led you into public service and political aspirations. And
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I'll just say this. Growing up, I never expected to be a politician. I never thought about running for office or dreamed of that. But, life sort of evolved. I grew up in a small town by Hampton, New Hampshire, Hampton Beach. I'm the oldest of five. I'd say my mom was a huge influence in my life because, when I was 10, my dad left, my parents split up, and my mom had the five of us. And I was the oldest. And, I think right away you kind of grow up quickly. I started working at 10. It was like working the apple orchard or doing some old lady's laundry down the street or whatever. Like you do these jobs. All of us kids, worked. I waitressed probably all through, high school, college, and law school, ultimately at Hampton Beach. At the casino, by the way, if anybody's seen shows there, that was like my second to being governor was probably my favorite job as a cocktail waitress at the casino.
Many times at the
I
nights at the
probably
casino.
served
I probably
you.
did.
Yeah.
Probably overserved me back in the
No,
day.
well, statute of limitations run.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
But I grew up in that kind of environment, and we were sort of forced to look out for one another. One of the things my mom did when she got divorced is she sold her wedding ring, and she used the money to pave half a basketball court out behind our farmhouse, and just like sent us out there to play. And I loved sports. I was athletic and took to basketball in particular, and that's why I ended up ultimately being able to go play in college and then professionally overseas afterwards, because my mom, made that possible. Also, my grandparents. And, my grandfather was a union worker at the GE, built those turbines in Lynn.
Yep.
And, he had retired, but just about every day he was over looking after us, teaching us the right way to paint, teaching us how to, put new clapboards on, teaching us how to, caulk windows, teaching us how to change the oil. He taught us all to drive. And I just love my grandfather, and he had such a strong work ethic, and did till his dying days at 94. But that's a little bit of my background, and how you grow up. Those experiences inform how you see the world.
Yeah, you went to college locally, right? You played basketball locally.
Yeah, I played. I got recruited out of public high school in Hampton, and came down to Massachusetts. My folks are both from Newburyport, up on the North Shore, but I hadn't lived in Massachusetts till I came here for college. Played at Harvard.
Yep.
I was a point guard, obviously. I'm short, and and then had a chance to go play pro in Europe for a few years. So I did that, and then came back and went to Northeastern for law school, which I loved, which was great.
Yeah, you talk about basketball from when you were a pro and you went to college and played to today, where the women's league is with pro basketball. You must be so proud and so amazed to see how far it's come, right?
It's totally, and it's why I want a WNBA team in Boston. I'm trying to bring the sun to Boston. I just think women's sports, it's just bigger, faster, stronger. And part of it, women are now able to play second, third, fourth grade in their own leagues, in their own teams.
Sure.
Like when I was a kid growing up, I just played with the boys, right? So I'm like one of two or three girls playing with the boys, which was great. Like I played baseball all the way through to 8th grade, and then, in high school switched to tennis in the spring. Like I benefited from those experiences, but I just think there's so much more support now for girls in sports, and as a result, the caliber of play is awesome. And I'd say in basketball in particular, I think one of the reasons people love the W, it's not just Caitlin Clark, though she's phenomenal.
Yep.
The game itself, like if you watch it, it's much more old school. I talk about this with Bob Cousy a lot. Like it's below the rim, right? It's just, and it's kind of the way the fundamentals and the way the game used to be played. And I think that that's what people are also gravitating to.
Oh, absolutely. In my house, like the WNBA isn't a must-watch on Sundays, like the NFL or even the regular
Isn't that
NBA.
great?
I got a basketball player in the family. Our son at home plays basketball, but we're all Caitlin Clark fans.
Yeah.
I mean, she really is something else, and really got people that weren't paying attention before paying attention now. I
Yeah.
think it's great what she's doing. I think it's great what the WNBA is doing, and on the precipice of coming to Boston, and I think it's exciting.
Yeah.
It really is exciting.
Yeah,
you know what I
yeah,
mean?
totay. Everyone watches women's sports. That's what the T-shirts say. I think
That's
it's
right.
true.
That's
yeah.
right. That's right. I love it. So you were a lawyer. You went to law school,
Mm-hmm.
as you said. You took on some big fights as a lawyer. Is that kind of what led you into deciding to run for attorney general? Or
Yeah, totally. You know, I part of what I loved about being a lawyer was being an advocate. You know, fighting for somebody, helping them with a problem, right, or helping them through a tough time. And I got to do that in the attorney general's office as a lawyer there, and it's what led me to run to be attorney general. And you know, as attorney general, like my job was to run the office, but it was you were the people's lawyer, right? Like you use the power of that office, or at least I did, to go after the opioid makers. You know, I was the first attorney general to sue the Sackler family for just like the awful, horrible stuff they did,
sure,
along with a bunch of other opioid manufacturers and distributors. And, you know, to lay sort of the story out there about like the greed and how they ruined so many people's lives by getting people addicted. And, you know, we were able to recover, you know, well over $1 billion for the state that we're, you know, putting into recovery and treatment. But it was like that kind of experience that I was really drawn to. People who are getting screwed, you know, with bad loans during the mortgage crisis, right? Remember those days back in
Yeah,
'08? Ledge
yeah.
was shut down at
That's right,
work,
yeah,
we
yeah.
know, devastated the economy. But, you know, going after to wage theft, you know, going after people who are victims of discrimination, you know, people who with disabilities who weren't getting a fair shake. It's like I was drawn to being an advocate. It was what led me to be attorney general. Also, as attorney general, you know, it was about public safety, standing up for victims. I did a lot of work for victims. I, you know, did a lot of work taking on crime, you know, going after drug traffickers and cartels and human traffickers and the like, and standing up for victims. And I just loved that work. And, you know, having served as attorney general for 8 years, you know, it wasn't the easiest choice leaving that to go and run for governor. But I love being governor.
Sure.
But I love being attorney general too.
yeah, your time as attorney general, for us and for our members, for Local 103 members, we really got an upfront view of your hard work in your labor and wage division, and then the wage theft stuff, how you went after the pretenders and the bad actors in our industry and brought them to task.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's about fairness. You know, it's like when I was in school and we were little, my mom, who went back, she was a nurse, but she went back to work as a school nurse so she could have the same schedule as us because she was raising the 5 of us alone. You know, she really sensitized us kids to people who were being bullied. You know, it's like, and she always taught us like go like it's not right. You see somebody bullied, or you see somebody in school who kids are picking on, or you know somebody who's like got no friends at the lunch table. Like you go and befriend them. You go take care of them, and that I think is just something that she drove every day, like fairness. You know, like when you see stuff that isn't fair. For example, years later, AG's office, wage theft, unscrupulous actors out there ripping off hardworking men and women on their wages, you know, stealing their wages from them and from their family members. That was personal. That was something I got to take on in the Attorney General's office and was very important to me. But so much of it, Lou, it's just like, it goes back to fighting for fairness. And I love the work that we were able to do together,
Absolutely.
Labor Advisory Council. We set up the clinics on wage theft so we could train more people out there to go after people who were, or companies who were stealing wages. And, the work, the work that we got to do generally that I know continues today
Yep.
through the great work of A.G. Campbell and her team. Important stuff.
Yeah, that's the stuff that our members see firsthand when they're being boxed out of a job. Our contractors and our members, they're being boxed out because someone underbid them because they're not paying their workers fair wages, good benefits, and we miss out. So it's almost like two people are getting wages stolen from them, and to correct that has been huge. And we've noticed all your hard work there. And is that what led you to run for governor, to fighting for the little guy, to really fighting for the underdog?
That was certainly part of it, and also just I love this state. I love Massachusetts, and there's so many great things about Massachusetts and growing up in the state and what it represents and so much potential. And, as governor, your job is to look after people in your state, make sure that you're growing the economy, growing jobs, growing opportunities for people. And to have that opportunity, I didn't want to pass it up. I also thought, Lou, look, I was attorney general for 8 years, right? Which is a statewide office. I knew the state. I knew our people. I knew our companies. I knew our businesses. I knew our sectors. I knew our friends in the labor movement and how important the labor movement is to our economy, because you don't have a strong economy without a strong labor movement. I knew the regions of the state and the needs, and I could see both the challenges, the issues that the state was having, and I could also see like the potential and the possibility, and that's why I ran.
I love it. I love it. And talking about opportunities, I know we talk a lot when we're with you. We talk about PLAs. Now, the legislature did some great work last year, the year before, about erasing the 30-year-old Malden decision that made it almost impossible for PLAs to be put on public projects. The legislature did their thing. You signed that bill. We celebrated that big time. You followed up with a strong executive order on putting PLAs in your administration as far as the branches, that whether it's all the public processes and the T, the Massport, others. What's the next step do you see for PLAs to get those PLAs in place and get people onto jobs?
Yeah, it's it's getting that implemented, right? It's getting projects on the street and getting the work out there for people. I'm proud that as governor, I filed and signed an economic development bill that included PLAs as part of economic development for the state, all right? I think the first time that was ever in there as an economic development bill. And then I followed up with an executive order, which basically said to all of our state agencies and out there, look, for any project over $35 million, you've got to consider a PLA. So, whether you're at Massport or the MBTA or DOT or at the UMass system, look at all of our public colleges and universities, right? With work out there, you gotta consider a PLA and making that something by executive order that needs to happen. So right now, we're working on how do we get as many PLAs out there on these public projects. And look, I mean, it's a hard time. It's a hard time. It breaks my heart, to know that there are people who aren't working right now, right, who are waiting for work. There's stuff that's within my control, and there's stuff that isn't within my control, right? I mean, nationally, we've had capital dry up. Interest rates are still high. This makes it really challenging for work. So I always think, Lou, well, what is within my control? What can I do as governor to help and to get guys working? And PLAs is part of that. PLAs is a way to get guys off the bench, men and women out there who want the work and who do great work and are highly skilled. So let's get them out there on these public projects, right? I've got something that I filed, by the way, called the Bright Act. And basically it's a $2.5 billion investment in our state colleges and universities, the facilities, which need upgrades.
Sure they do.
Let's get men and working right now on public projects on our campuses. It's the Bright Act. I hope that I have a chance that the legislature passes that soon, and I have a chance to sign it. These things are really good. And the other thing, people should know about PLAs is PLAs make sure that the job is done well, done right, because you've got people who are skilled and who are trained. And also the record, with PLAs, these jobs are done on time. And when stuff is done on time, it saves money, right?
That's right.
And that's super important.
Yeah, the time frame definitely is important. And that's always the guarantee of a PLA,
Yeah.
on time, on budget, right?
Yeah.
PLA. Switching gears a little bit, talking about energy costs, and that's on the top of mind of a lot of everybody right now, especially
Across America.
across
Yeah.
America, especially in here in the Commonwealth, our members, everybody's worried about energy costs. Now, how has what Trump has done attacking clean energy projects, how has that kind of put another burden on the cost of energy for regular consumers like all of us?
Yeah, he's killing jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, when you take away subsidies for solar and wind and battery storage, I mean, this is stuff that 103 is building here in Massachusetts. These are jobs that we need, right? And so doing stuff like that, the president's killing jobs. And, it's got to stop because we need this energy, right? Like I've talked to you about this in the past.
Sure.
We need all kinds of energy out there, right? And you all are such an important part of that, the work that you do. And it's only going to grow, this clean energy space, because, while gas is important and we need to continue to utilize gas, we need to take advantage of other sources out there with everything coming on, data centers, AI. We need the power. We need the energy. And so, for the president to kill jobs, shut down projects, try to take away wind or shut down wind, from here to Virginia, it doesn't make any sense because it kills jobs. And the other thing is it kills energy.
Mm-hmm.
When you have more energy coming in, you're going to have lower costs. And I'm really focused on how do I lower energy costs for people in this state. I just filed a bill to reduce energy costs by $13 billion because people are hurting. We can't afford our electric bills and our heating bills at the end of the month, right? And we're going into winter, so we need to bring more supply. So it just doesn't make any sense, both on the jobs front and on the cost front, right? Because we should be about being more energy independent in this country and not reliant on Russia or anybody else. And we should be about getting as much supply in as possible, modernizing the grid, and doing this work to make us energy independent, and our costs are going to go down.
Yeah, we just we're feeling what his pushback on some of those incentives firsthand with the Salem wind project, the laydown area, the Salem port, and that is devastating to our members that were looking forward to going up there and working, because the ports is where all that work originates, and then it goes out to sea. They build all that stuff there. And
it's devastating. So
detrimental,
they just took away, the Trump administration just took away $700 million in funding for jobs at ports. Why? Right? We need this. We need this energy. And, we need this work. And that's just devastating. So I'm going to continue to go back and urge in the strongest possible terms that President Trump reverse that decision. It doesn't make any sense. Just like taking away some of the subsidies and the tax credits for solar and wind don't make sense. 2 weeks ago, we were fighting hard to save the Vineyard Wind Project that they were going to shut down. It doesn't make sense. We already have power flowing from that project, thanks to, some members, including 103 members, to 200,000 homes and businesses in Massachusetts. Don't turn off the power and don't kill jobs. I also appreciate, this is where we're going. This is where the world is going.
Right.
China, Europe, all these countries are building out clean energy at rapid scales. At the same time, the Trump administration is going in the other direction. We're not going to survive if it's just oil and gas. Right. We're not going to have the energy that we need. So you guys rightly, I think, invested a lot in training people for this workforce because we're going to need it. America needs it. For America to kick ass and truly be America first, we need to have, so many more electricians who are going to be there to do the solar arrays and the battery storage facilities and the EV chargers, right?
Yeah.
And the wind and you name it, right? This is where
Yeah.
we got to be.
We were accelerating towards taking on China when it comes to building EV cars, and they
Yeah.
just gave it up and gave it all back to China, gave the advantage to the Chinese government to build EVs, and
I
it's
know.
so disappointing.
Yeah, and China's building EVs. They're also building wind farms like
Yeah.
crazy, right? Because they're smart. They know this is where we got to go. So, we got to get the administration to change course on
Sure.
this because it's making us weaker at
Yeah.
a time we need to be
Yeah.
strong.
You've been a champion on clean energy stuff. Last year, you signed a major clean energy bill, and you did it here at IBEW 103 at our training center. Why was it so significant and symbolic to have the signing of a bill that was meant so much to you to have it here at Local 103?
Yeah, it was awesome. 103, you guys are just fantastic. And I think about that day every time I'm on 93, driving by the building and the training facility. It was really important to do it here because this is about jobs. Sometimes people the public doesn't see the connection between, policy and jobs and what that actually means for putting, money in people's pockets and feeding their families. And to me, it was just a great example of like, this is how it's supposed to work. We're going to do this project, right? We're going to have this clean energy work. We got to do it so that we can get more energy into the region. It can be cheaper energy, lower cost for everybody, lower people's bills. And also the way we're going to do it is by great family sustaining jobs, union jobs, 103 jobs, right? They're going to power this forward, powering the economy. When I said earlier, we do not have a strong economy without a strong labor movement. And to me,
Amen.
yeah, and that was an example of that.
Yeah.
That's why I wanted to do it here. Also to show people that it's possible.
Yeah.
Right? That this works. And with that, we grow jobs, we grow the economy, we lower energy costs.
Yep.
All this is part of one package.
So important to show our apprentices too that you believe in them and you're working to put them to work in the future.
Oh my God.
You
I
know?
love every time I go through there, I'm just blown away with the kinds of training that they're receiving and also just what it's meant for their lives. Your trainees, your apprentices, like I've talked to so many of them over the years, just talk about like what 103 has meant to them and meant to their families, meant to their career, meant to their just, view of the future and what's possible. And it's just so cool. And I love talking to them even, when they're in training. I always ask them, they're out working here, they're out working here at this site. And it's so cool. They're making everything go.
Yeah, apprentices are our heart and soul, really. They're the future of our industry, and our industry is growing exponentially, and we really need them. So to see you come, and set an example that, hey, I believe in you guys. You guys are going to build our clean energy future. That I think that really resonates and makes them want to get out there and get to work.
Them. I need every one of them, and I know we got more people banging on the door to get in, which is great, and we got to get everybody work. Think about what we got to do on the grid. We've got to modernize the grid. I talk to people around the country, doesn't matter what state you're in, red or blue. We all need energy, right?
Yep.
And we need those electrons to actually flow. And we need the workforce that understands how to build that infrastructure, how to modernize the grid, how to literally, make sure that energy is delivered across states, across the country, and into people's homes and businesses. And, I think people at 103 should take great pride in knowing that they are on the forefront, of this American frontier of energy development and energy independence.
Oh, absolutely. We do. We really do. And staying on energy, right? Whether it's the Green New Deal or whether it's your bold initiative for clean energy future and sustainability, there's a word in there called just transition. And people, that's a kind of confusing, it's not your language, but it's in the Green New Deal. And people are like, what does just transition mean? Does it mean you're going to take gas workers to train them how to retread tires? No, that's not what it means. I think personally it means keeping all options on the table as far as energy goes until the grid is ready for a complete green energy takeover. How do you see that, and how do you see those other demonized parts of energy, whether it's gas pipelines, whether it's nuclear or oil? How do you see those others playing a role as we build up our green energy infrastructure.
It's so funny. I'm glad you raised just what'd you call it?
Just
Yeah.
transition.
I mean, sometimes these words and phrases, they don't make sense to me or they
Right.
don't make sense to the public, right?
Right.
What the hell are we talking about? I think what we're trying to say, or I think what that means to
So
me
it's open
is
to a
that,
lot of translation, and people translate it differently.
right.
You know?
But I guess I'd say, here's what I think needs to happen, right? We just got to be smart about this, right? We need all kinds of energy right now. We don't have enough energy. You know, given the strain on the systems and what we're looking to do, and you know, the computing power that's necessary right now. I mean, everybody's using devices and technology. That all requires power, a lot of power. So, to me, what a smart transition looks like is one that continues to use all energy sources and builds out more clean energy sources, more renewables. That's what we need to do because at the end, that is going to be better for our country. It's going to be better for costs. Already, we've seen the price of renewables come down, and it's the kind of thinking that we need. And it also means to me, just transition, that people don't get screwed in the process. Okay,
Right.
the people who have to pay the bills, right? They shouldn't have to be paying like crazy amounts in rates to subsidize something. You know, you can't screw the ratepayers. You can't screw the workers either. And, you know, that gets to the discussion about gas. We continue to need gas. Massachusetts continues to rely on and need gas. It's part of our economy. It's part of the infrastructure. So we got to make sure, you know, that that's available as we build out new sources of energy.
That's right. That's right.
We can't leave workers behind.
Right. Right. And what's your take on some of the nuclear options?
Oh,
not bad nuclear,
absolutely.
but
Absolutely. I
power,
should have
nuclear
mentioned.
power,
I'm a fan of nuclear power. Okay,
the cleanest, right? It's the cleanest
know,
form of energy there is.
It,
Right?
it
No
is
emissions?
it is very clean. There is some waste still associated with
Sure.
it, which we got to be dealing with. But you know, I grew up by Hampton Beach, so I grew up in the shadow of Seabrook Station,
Yep.
right, in the nuclear power plant. You know, I was alive during 3 Mile Island. I understand people's concern about like
Sure.
nuclear power plants and what that may conjure up. Like it's a different world now, folks, right? And the kinds of technology that's out there, we got to take advantage of that.
Right.
So I'm leaning into nuclear. I'd love to see it in Massachusetts, in the region. I'm also working, Lou, with other states, with other governors on energy solutions and, you know, on projects that we can do together to bring more energy into the region.
Yeah, that's great. That's great because we need, like you said, we need all the energy and there's good paying jobs in energy work. All of it. All of it. So we're excited about all your energy
Nuclear
options.
fusion down the line,
Yep.
you know, a little ways away, but
Yeah,
you
have
know.
you been out to Commonwealth Fusion?
I had. That's a great place
Isn't
for
that
those
amazing?
who don't know. I mean, Commonwealth Fusion is a really amazing and exciting to see what they're doing and what's ahead.
Yeah, one of our
You got folks out there.
yeah, one of our
I know,
contractors.
I saw some of them.
One of our contractors built that job with the help of obviously Local 96 out of Worcester.
Yeah.
So that's a great sense of pride for the IBEW to come for the fusion that's coming, that nuclear fusion work that's going to come for this country. They're putting nuclear reactors like the size of the back of an 18-wheeler rather than the massive size of what Seabrook was or what Plymouth was. You know what I mean? So it's really exciting.
It's super cool. I was blown away, and they're looking to expand, which is great.
Yeah, you put those little fusion reactors next to a data center or something else that draws a lot of energy, and it's a solution. It's definitely a positive solution that we're excited to be a part of.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and in a state, Lou, where I mean, you guys know this from the jobs, but look at all the colleges and universities, the hospitals, the teaching hospitals, the research institutions. You know, these are places that need a lot of power, a lot of power, a lot of energy, and that's why, you know, being able to cite something there alongside them. Also, whether it's geothermal, whether it's solar, you know, whether it's battery storage, you know, we got to take advantage of all these things, including like these smaller advanced nuclear modules.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. We're excited about that stuff. That's the future of the energy industry for sure. Shifting gears a little bit, we talk about it all the time. I know you've been, it's been it's number one priority for you, and that's housing, right? Getting more housing built, bringing the costs down. I know Massachusetts is a big demand area. The cost of housing, if you own a house and you already have a house. It's great to see the value of your house rise. But if you're like one of my kids, or you're a younger person just coming out of college, or just getting into the trade, and you're trying to get into a house, and the challenge of getting into your first house, how do you see that playing out? And what are you doing, and what's your administration doing to really take that on?
We're building housing.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to say, I don't understand why for so many years we weren't building more housing in the state. You know, some of it gets down to local zoning practices and some NIMBYism. I, lack of, I think, state engagement and investment in this space. I'll tell you what I've done as governor. When I started as governor, we were short about 220,000 housing units statewide. We didn't have enough inventory. We were short 220,000 housing units, right? That's like crazy. So we got to work right away. I drafted, filed, and signed into law a $4 billion housing bill that is all about bringing more development online. And we're working really, really hard to do that. And some of that includes, important ways to incentivize, like the actual building of more homes so that people can afford it. I don't want to see anybody having to live back with their parents still because they can't afford not just a down payment, they can't afford rent. I don't want to see families thinking about moving to other states because housing is cheaper. I say that, and I'll also say this: housing's a nationwide issue.
Sure.
Housing, my folks still live in New Hampshire. I mean, housing prices are through the roof there too. It's a shortage everywhere, but we're getting after it in Massachusetts, and we've got more work to do. The economy, it's tough right now, right? Because we've got, there's just a lack of access to capital right now. And again, getting back to the Trump administration, he is just making that worse with the uncertainty that's out there in the markets. People aren't deploying capital right now, and capital isn't as accessible. So then it falls to us as a state. What can we do? What are the incentives that I can offer up to make the math work on some of these projects?
Sure.
And I want to do that working directly with labor, working with developers, and working with state funding, which I've put into play in a bunch of ways. Not just funding, but actual land too. I recently offered up. Right, we've got some surplus state land out there that I want for housing development. So let's go.
Yeah, land is expensive around here.
Yeah, land's expensive
That's a great way
too.
to initiate.
Yep.
Another thing that labor brings to the table that we talk about all the time is our pension fund money and how to invest it.
Yeah.
And investing it in housing.
Yep.
And we're looking to partner certainly with your administration more and to help you build more housing because our folks need housing as well.
Of course they need housing. They not only are the recipients of housing, but they're the ones that we need to actually build the housing, right? And I think, the idea of the state working with the trades, working with the pension funds, again, to the money piece, where's the capital going to come from, right? And working with developers, this is how we're going to more quickly bring things online. I'll tell you this, though, having started in the hole, 220,000 homes, we've already got 90,000 starts underway. Okay, so we're getting there. It's just, we've just got more work to do. And
Sure.
every day, Lou, I am focused. My team is. It's like, how do we lower costs? How do we lower housing costs? How do we lower your energy costs? How do we lower your healthcare costs? That's driving us every day. And how do we make Massachusetts, a more competitive place and a place that attracts businesses and attracts residents? There's so much going for our state. Too. I want people to know that we're a high-cost state. I'm working on driving that down. I cut taxes, by the way. People don't know this. I'm the first governor in over 20 years to cut taxes.
Everybody likes it when you cut taxes, right?
So we're trying to make life more affordable. I also will tell folks we're a great state. The rankings came out. We were ranked #1 in education, in healthcare, in innovation. Got the best drinking water in the country, and we're among the safest states. And, we got a lot of great things going for us.
We do.
But I got to just, I'm focused every day on making life less expensive.
Sure. I mean, living in Massachusetts is in demand, right? The best hospitals, the best schools.
Yeah.
Right? It really is a great
Yeah.
place to live.
Yeah.
And people want to be here. And that's great that you're helping people that want to stay here afford to stay here.
Yeah.
Right? It's great. Massachusetts has always been a strong, progressive state. A lot of great leaders that come out of here. But there's always been challenges. What do you see for the state of Massachusetts? I know nationally is a similar conversation, but what do you see as the biggest challenges for Massachusetts going forward?
Well, I mean, right now it's a challenge with the Trump administration around cuts to Medicaid, cuts to food. I have to think about things that I didn't have to think about before, but now we have to because
Right.
that federal funding's going away. I mean, the big beautiful bill is basically represents a huge transfer of wealth from working people to the very, very richest among us, the richest billionaires. I mean, that's what's happening
Right.
with this legislation that was just passed.
It's
And of
crazy.
course, that's going to be paid for by cutting the amount that states like Massachusetts are going to receive for health care, for Medicare, for Medicaid, for food, for education. So all these things hurt. Major cuts to research in a state that really leads the world in terms of innovation and science and research and discovery, which, by the way, leads to amazing entrepreneurs and startups and companies. Look at life sciences. We're the global hub of life sciences because we have such an incredible hub of science and innovation. The Trump administration just cut funding for that, right? So that's a challenge, right? How do you deal with that until some sense can be brought in about what we should be investing in as a country and getting them to go in a different direction. But making up for those losses is a real challenge and a hardship on Massachusetts. It's a hardship on states around the country right now. But look, we're a great state. As a former point guard, I think it's all about teamwork.
That's
And
right.
this is why our relationships, our partnerships, public-private, government, and the outside are so important because we got to get the most out of every single dollar. We got to get the most out of every single taxpayer dollar, and we got to make the right investments. I'm confident we can do that.
Right. Your sports analogies are great, especially being a basketball player. Resonates with working people. Working people are into sports. They go hand in hand, and you're always talking about teamwork. You're talking about driving the ball down the court and things like that. And I think that's a great way to. How do you see IBEW 103 or labor in general as working with you as on your team and going forward?
Yeah, well, you're the playmakers, right? You're in the game and delivering and getting it done, and pushing forward, and hungry to work, hungry to get after it, and I just love that spirit, and I need you, and this state needs you, and that's how I see things right now. Look, there's enough defense out there, and there's defense I got to play on certain things as I'm trying to protect
That's right.
people right now in the state and protect our economy and some of our institutions. And it's also offense. Offense is super important, and let's put points on the board. That's why my team is every day fired up. How many homes are we building this week? What are we doing? How are we doing in terms of lowering energy costs? These are the things every day, like we're trying to keep track of and move on. And it's that mentality, right?
That's right.
That we're that the times are so urgent.
That's right.
People don't you don't have the luxury of affording to wait. There are people who need to feed their families.
Yep.
There's work that needs to be done, and I'm excited about that. But I certainly I understand. I understand that it's it's hard for folks right now. It's hard for folks right now in this country. It's hard for people right now, and we just got to continue to do everything we can to lower costs.
Yeah, we've here at 103, we've taken the Bill Belichick's old phrase, just do your job, and and we say all the time, let's get to work. It's always about getting to work. Everybody wants to be productive and get to work, and your administration from the get-go has really gotten right to work, and doing your job is just, you take as much pride in that statement as we do, as the Patriots do, as New England does.
Yeah.
And it's
well,
really
and it
great.
feeds itself, right?
Sure.
You get energy, you get enthusiasm, you get momentum, and that leads to something getting done. And then with that, it's like you see what can get done, and you just get after it,
That's right.
Again. And it just that's a really look. I think Massachusetts, we're celebrating 250 years here, and we've been a place that's been about moving forward. We moved this country forward.
Yeah.
We created America. We gave birth to American democracy.
That's right.
Started right here in Massachusetts. And so, I think that's always cool to think about. And, through these last 250 years, Massachusetts, we've always been in the lead. We've been pushing it. We've been driving things, and
That's right.
that's where we are now.
Yeah, I tell my kids all the time, there's nothing more rewarding than hard work. Right?
Yeah.
It really is. You work a hard day, you come home, you feel great about your day, about what you provide. We worked on that.
Yeah.
Got the lights on.
I know.
We worked on that today. We built some housing.
Yeah.
We got some jobs out the door and got people back on job
Yeah.
sites. That's so rewarding.
It is, and I it takes me back to my grandfather, who we did a lot of manual labor with him, like a
Yeah.
lot of work, and it was just like,
Yeah.
and it was just like it made
really
you feel
is.
good,
Yeah.
and it's just a wonderful, wonderful thing.
Yeah.
So I appreciate the people who are out there doing it and delivering it every single day.
Yeah. You mentioned Massachusetts celebrating an anniversary this year, 250 years.
Yeah.
Our nation started here in Massachusetts. Another organization I know is having an anniversary this year. IBEW 103 is celebrating 125 years of powering Boston. And
Isn't that awesome?
we're so excited.
It's amazing. 125 years, right?
Yep.
And just think about how much has changed in that time and all that 103 has been a part of and all that 103 has brought online, right?
Yeah.
Like just when it comes to, electricity and power and
Sure.
the way things
Yeah.
are done, it's super cool. So I'll be there. I'll
Yeah,
be there
we're
helping to
psyched.
celebrate,
Yeah.
helping you blow out the birthday candles.
Yeah, from the invention of electricity 125 years
Right?
ago to fusion reactors now out
I
in
know.
Central Mass, where Massachusetts is getting it done, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's great.
Yeah, it all
Yeah.
started here in Massachusetts.
That's right. So in closing, right, we really appreciate that you come on and talk to us and talk to our members. Letting your hair down a little bit, what does Governor Maura Healey like to do on her downtime? What to relax? And, what do you do outside of being governor, although being governor is 24/7, 365?
Yeah,
You
it
know.
is. It is, and I love the job. A lot of it is still around sports. I'll go work out or play tennis or
Yeah.
watch a game. I still play a little bit of basketball. I like that physical, mental release. I like watching games too. Patriots is a little rough yesterday, but they're gonna write that. That's all right. It's early, and I love Vrabel. And I'm rooting for the Sox. So been
They get a young, exciting team, don't
I
they?
know,
Yeah.
I know,
They're
and
fun to watch.
it's been really fun since the All-Star break.
Yeah, it
so
has.
that's been good. Watched the U.S. Open over the
Oh,
weekend.
yeah.
Which is great. So I love to do that kind of stuff, and then whatever family time I can get
Sure.
is important to be with my family, and sometimes that's just like taking walks or hikes or
Yeah.
taking the dog out, that
that's
kind
awesome.
of stuff. I like to mow my grass. I like to do yard work.
Yep.
I used to do that as a kid. I was the one primarily responsible for
Yeah, because you're the oldest.
landscaping.
I was the
Well, I
oldest,
also
and I had it
liked
too.
it. It was back in the time when you remember those Walkmans you used to
Oh, yeah. Right?
right? And you'd push your mower, and it was felt like a workout because you were sweating, and
Yep.
then the drive mower came in. It was great. It was very fun. But I love that. I love just getting in the dirt a little bit. Again, an example of you can see
Right.
progress.
That's right. That's
Nobody
right.
should look at my house now though because the landscaping is terrible. But
Is there a favorite place in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts that you like to get away to? That's your go-to spot, whether it's a restaurant or whether it's a beach or
Yeah.
anything like that.
yeah, I love the beach.
Yeah.
I love the beach. I mean, I grew up on the beach. I'm a water baby. The ocean. Though I have to say, the great thing about Massachusetts is we've got it all. You
Yeah.
know, when you get out to the 413, it's hills and mountains, and that's beautiful too, and lakes. But I think I always gravitate to my days of Hampton Beach and the ocean, right? And I like to get out on the water too. I
Yeah.
like to get out on a boat.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. So wrapping it up, Gov, what's your final message to working people and to members of IBEW 103, whether they're journey people or whether they're technicians, electricians, or apprentices? What would you like them to take away from this sit down with the governor of Massachusetts?
I want them to know I really care about them. I care about them and their families. I'm doing this job because I want to make life better for everybody in this state. And I want people to have a life that's affordable here, where you can afford a home, where you can afford to send your kids to school or go on a vacation. You can have that kind of economic mobility that I think is the American dream, right? And that I'm focused on it every single day, right? and that there's a lot that's coming at me in this job, and some of it's silliness, and some of it's politics, and some of it's, you know, really hard questions and decisions that you got to grapple with. I love every moment of it. I really do. My North Star is, how do I make life more affordable for families here in Massachusetts? And how do I just create more opportunity as we grow that economy, right? And it's also one of fairness, to get back to my mom and what she taught us. You know, giving people a shot. You know, not leaving people behind. And I just fundamentally believe that a stronger economy is made by a stronger labor movement, and that the more we can do in partnership together, the better. And we have models at work. You know, it's not a zero-sum game. Business community here, labor here, government here. No. Massachusetts, we can do it together
That's
in
right.
partnership.
It's a three-legged stool.
Everyone
Right?
wins.
Yep, that's right. Governor Healey, thank you so much for being on the job with
Yeah.
all of us today. This was great. I hope we can have you back sometime, but we really look forward to continuing the positive work that we're doing together.
Yeah.
It really means a lot. We don't always have that in government, but we know we have it with you.
Yeah.
We lean on you a lot. You lean on us a lot, and I think it's turned into a really productive relationship, and I want to thank you for that.
I really appreciate it, and happy birthday, and know that I'm laser focused right now on how to get everybody working.
Awesome.
You know,
Yep.
that's what we're focused on.
That's great. Thanks
All right.
again. Yeah, this has been great. Awesome.
Great to see you. Thank
Cool.
you.